like about ADHD is that sometimes I have to go to the doctor and not go to school. I like to get to choose like if I want to go to school or if I don't.
I'm her stepmom. Her teacher was the one who initially brought it to our attention, and had a bunch of in-school testing done on her, and that led us to learn more about the symptoms of ADHD, and as soon as we read it, it fit. When we read it, it was, that's Faith.
My mom and dad were kind of at their wits' ends by the time he was 2. He was just very angry, and he was more of an aggressive, hyperactive child, so very difficult to deal with. A lot of people thought it was my parents' fault, what were my parents doing wrong? So there were lots of different things I guess they thought could have been happening.
When I got diagnosed with ADD, it was very hard for the doctors to figure out if it was ADD or ADHD, or if I just had a lot of trouble paying attention.
It doesn't matter whether you're looking for ADHD or ADD or any other kind of social or behavioral problem. What you're interested in is how well is your child integrating into their life.
You got to make sure that's ADHD and it's not a tumor that's growing, or it's not some other issue that we're not expecting. Eyesight, hearing, these are basic things that often people don't check. They come in, we go over the history, what's going on, we try to gather some information from the school, and they don't always want information from the school to come to me because they don't want to discuss it with the school. It becomes a complicated issue because they're afraid that the school hears ADHD and makes an assumption, treats their child a certain way. So some parents, they're a little secretive about things at first. They really can't be secretive forever. They need to be upfront and direct with the teaching staff who probably see their kid when they're awake more than anybody else.
We sought out a referral to a pediatrician who gave us a bunch of paperwork questionnaires to fill out and have her teachers fill out. And the more we learned about ADHD, and as time went on and we saw what we saw at home and what her teachers saw at school, it really started to all be brought to the forefront of our attention, right? I think it was nice to be able to know what it was, and not to think that it was misbehavior or bad parenting or too much sugar or whatever, because then we could find the solution.
My parents had to go to parenting classes, and my brother had to go see a psychologist for about an hour every week or two. And so it'd be just constructive play, and the psychologist would just kind of get my brother to do tasks and play with different things. And he noticed just some days he was excellent and some days he was a monster, and it was found out by chance. He went out one day on a bike ride with my father, and in the morning he was having a great day. He was just, that glimpse of goodness that my parents saw in him these times why they couldn't understand why he was a monster other times. And so he went out and he was perfectly fine, and they came back and he had just gone off the deep end. He was running around the house, and my mom was like, "What did you do?" And my dad's like, "Oh, we went on a bike ride, we stopped at a Kool-Aid stand." And she was like, bing.
Initially, we, like a lot of parents, didn't want to medicate her, and so we spent probably 6 months trying to use different tactics, I guess, behaviorally at home to see if we could train her into concentrating or discipline the lack of focus out of her, and it didn't work. And so once we conceded that it wasn't getting better, we knew that we had to kind of take that step to medication. I think the idea of giving stimulant medication to a young child is not something most parents want to go to as a first line of defense, We wanted to try everything else we could before we gave her medication, just because of side effects and not knowing if it was going to work, make her better, make her worse. I guess the unknown. It's scary putting a child on serious drugs. Penicillin or Tylenol is a little different than this stuff.
The suggested treatment was Ritalin. The psychologist recommended to keep him off of it until He couldn't cope at school anymore. And he actually never started Ritalin. I guess my mom wanted to avoid it if she could. They saw his behavior at school and knew he wouldn't get through school if something didn't change. So she looked at the ingredients in the Kool-Aid, immediately cut out the color dyes that was in that Kool-Aid, and realized it made a huge difference. We lived in a color additive-free home. That's what was the trick for my brother.
The pills make me feel kind of normal, just a tiny bit. My mom had like an idea, if you were like a cheerleader and then you wouldn't need your pills because then you'd be going to games with so much energy and stuff.
More energy than anyone else, right?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, there's certain things that help me personally. Anything that slows down my brain process. Yeah, pot, I'm not gonna lie. That really helps with my ADD.
You listen to Barkley and others, medications are life medications. I'm more concerned about a child not being focused and getting run over by a truck than I am getting run over by a spelling test. It's not just about school.
Well, these days the assumption is, for in most cases, that this is a lifelong condition, so that you, in theory, would use medication for the rest of your life.
The point is that if you needed it as a child and you don't need it as an adult, that'll happen to about 40% of people. I treat mostly adults, so I will be treating the 60% that didn't get better.
He says that it affects him at work sometimes. I don't know. He managed to make it through university and he's now a mechanical engineer. So he got through school, so he had enough attention to be able to do that. I think he just finds that his mind moves very quickly now, and so, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
Eventually, they figured out that it was ADD that I had, and which my teachers finding that out really helped me in school, so they didn't think I was just slacking off or not doing my work or constantly talking in class, which just helped my stress levels, which I find also helped my attention as well, because I wasn't trying to focus on it as much.
Well, it's the same as anything else. You try to get as educated as you can. If you think there's something wrong, you start asking questions. Well, my advice is that that's a good place to start from, to be quite wary or cautious about what the medication can do, but to remember that there is a place for this medication for the right child in the right circumstance who is affected by this condition.
I think it's really important to really focus on that child and really look at alternative methods first. And I'm not saying that Ritalin or medical alternative can't be helpful, but I think always look at even diet first.
I can be cheeky and say make sure you use birth control, or I can just say really, have the children that you want to have. If you have genetic ADHD and you ask me, should I have children? Of course you should have children. You did well, your parents did well, your child will do well. Just make sure that you engage the proper resources and give them the best chance that you can.